Hello and welcome back. I'm Mr. Kennedy, and this week I'll talk a little bit about the Ottoman and the Qing empires. Both empires were unquestionably awesome in the original sense of the word. They dominated their respective regions, the Ottoman in Southwest Asia and the Qing in China, for hundreds of years, and were the two most powerful states in the 18th century. However, they both declined through the 19th century, especially in relation to Europe, which, because of the Industrial Revolution, was booming. In fact, both empires lost major battles to European powers in the course of their declines. But this is not a story of European triumph. Let's start with the Ottoman Empire. It began in 1281 in what is now northern Turkey, as a young king, Osman I, took advantage of the weakening Byzantine Empire to expand. By 1453, Mehmed II, another sultan, had conquered Constantinople and pushed deep into Europe. This map shows the empire expanding to its maximum extent in 1683, including most of Southwest Asia and large parts of North Africa and Europe. The Ottomans succeeded because of innovation. The sultans expanded by developing advanced gunpowder weapons, like this bombard used to shatter the walls of Constantinople, and by training strong and disciplined forces, like the Janissaries. They're the ones with the guns about to conquer those European knights. The sultans maintained their power with an effective bureaucracy that brought political stability in which Ottoman culture, especially architecture and literature, flourished. But it couldn't last forever. During its expansion, the Sultan was a strong central power, but the Janissary Corps adapted their military power into political influence, and local leaders kept state taxes for themselves. To maintain their positions, both groups stifled the kinds of innovations that helped bring the Ottomans to power. Upstart Europeans, who had adapted many Ottoman strategies and technologies, took advantage of Ottoman weakness and pushed them out of Europe and Africa by 1914. This decline took centuries, and there were many serious efforts to reform and strengthen the Ottoman Empire. Even as its borders receded, the empire maintained a vibrant intellectual life, but the academic elite debated whether to adapt European methods or try to recapture the past. Without a clear policy, reforms failed. The Ottoman Empire did not survive the First World War, with serious implications for Southwest Asia. We'll end the discussion of the Ottoman Empire here, at the Al-Azhar University in Egypt, the site of some of those debates about reform. Now, we will head east to just north of Korea, what is now northeast China, and was, in the early 1600s, the heartland of the Manchu nomads, who had already proclaimed themselves the Qing dynasty. Like the early Ottomans, they were a powerful, disciplined fighting force, unified around a strong leader. They were also becoming increasingly Chinese in culture, politics, and society. However, if they were interested in military domination, they had a problem. Between them and the Ming Empire stood some of the best protected sections of the Great Wall of China. However, the Ming's problems soon brought the Manchu through the wall and into China, literally. In 1664, a rebellion forced a Chinese general to let Manchu armies through the wall. The Manchu were happy to help, and then quickly defeated the Chinese and conquered Beijing. Their empire, called the Qing dynasty, was the most powerful state in the world by 1700. The secret to their success lay in their ability to leverage traditional Chinese institutions, like the scholar gentry bureaucracy, for their own purposes. For instance, they continued the 1,000-year-old exam system for selecting government officials. At the same time, the Manchu rulers made sure that the highest levels of government remained under their control by pairing Chinese officers with loyal Manchus. The Manchu also invested heavily in infrastructure projects, mostly canals and levees, to control and connect the Huanghe and the Yangtze. This contemporary painting of canals around Beijing shows the enormous scale of the construction. By increasing agricultural production and improving transportation, those investments improved the Qing economy. At the same time, Europeans were desperately eager for Chinese goods and paid inflated prices in silver. In the 18th century, the Qing were unmatched. The 19th century was a different story. While the Qing maintained their borders, by 1900 the emperor was powerless, rebellion flared, and Europeans dictated the terms of foreign trade. Little more than 10 years later, the empire fell. Why did that happen? One major cause was the bureaucracy weakened through corruption. This was partly because the exam system was so good at selecting the most able applicants, regardless of social class. Officials wanted even their lazy sons to get jobs, so they resorted to fraud and bribery. But not surprisingly, people who cheated their way past the exams didn't make good leaders. Without leadership, many of the early infrastructure projects, remember the dams and levees, literally fell apart, flooding farmland. Because they couldn't grow any food, peasant uprisings were common. Instead of fighting abroad, the Qing army went to war against its own population. On top of that, the British reversed the trade situation by selling drugs. Despite demands from the Qing to stop, British merchants had sold thousands of tons of opium in China by 1839. Opium is a dangerous and addictive narcotic. Those who smoked it wasted away their lives and money in opium dens. The British not only allowed its merchants to keep selling the drug, they supported the sale. When Chinese officials tried to stop the opium trade, the British invaded, starting the Opium Wars. The weakened Qing army lost to the British, who rewarded themselves with Hong Kong and the right to import as much opium as they liked. Other Western powers followed suit and divided up China's ports among themselves. By 1911, instead of trying to prop up the dying empire, Chinese intellectuals chose rebellion instead. Those are the stories of the Ottoman and Qing dynasties and their decline and fall. We'll end with a caution. First, I want to re-emphasize the incredible size and strength of these two empires. This isn't a story of mighty Europeans defeating backwards or uncivilized empires. Both the Ottoman and the Qing declined due to a complex blend of factors, both internal and external. Also, remember to keep your eyes out for bias, mine or anybody else's. Alright, that's it for this week. I'll see you again next week to talk about Russia and Japan. Industrialization, it's not just for Europe anymore.